Maybe, like you, I've been asked a number of times what it's like being married to a pilot. Well, we often know that it can end up being mostly about the pilot. So buckle up. Let's unpack the ups and downs of pilot wife life and grab the checklist over at Pilot Wife Checklist and learn from me, Jackie Ulmer, your co captain on this journey with over 35 years in the airline profession and as a pilot wife. And did you know that I also have a YouTube channel, Travel Life by a Pilot Wife? Join me there too. So, pilot wife life, well, like any other life, duh, it can be a variety of different things. It's not going to be a one size fits all. It's going to vary greatly depending on a number of factors: where you live, how old you are, do you have a blended family? At what point did you come into this lifestyle that you're currently living? Is the pilot a commercial airline pilot? Is he a private charter or military pilot? Does he fly seaplanes? Does he do bush flying? I actually have an episode with a female bush pilot from Alaska, so go listen in for that one. A drone pilot, cargo pilot, so much more that can encompass all of this. So I'm married to a commercial airline pilot, so I'm strictly sharing my perspective from this vantage point. But it's been my experience in talking with so many others that the situation and a lot of what we experience can be largely the same. All right. So, one of the top issues that come up in this particular lifestyle is loneliness and that time spent apart. Now, I got to be honest, this never really bothered me overall. Sure, there were those times with holidays and family events and kids and worried that I was going to deliver a child with my husband not home. That never happened. I'm happy to say he was there for both births. Um, so sometimes some of those things could create some challenges, but overall, it never bothered me. Now, again, I'm from the airline industry first and foremost, before I even knew he walked this earth. I have a little cat here that wants to get in on the action. This is Luna. All right. So, depending on who the employer is, a lot of things can vary about the actual trip, the length of time gone, that time that you're spent apart. So, again, each situation will vary. There are those airlines and jobs within piloting that are strictly out and back. You leave in the morning, you come home in the evening. It doesn't involve, being gone overnight, no layovers, hotels, or any of that. There are 2 to 4 day trips, which are domestically here in the United States pretty common. I can't speak for Europe, Asia. I can't speak for any other country in the global community what those type of trips look like, but that's typically how American carriers schedule things. And so there's a part of me that wants to believe that it's largely the same. And if you know something different, please reach out to me. You can go to ask.pilotwifepodcast.com and there's a little form there, but please do let me know. And then if the pilot is flying internationally, it can certainly be longer than that. And especially cargo flying, my experience has been of this with a good friend who was married to a cargo pilot, that they were often longer trips. He flew way internationally, flew for FedEx, and it was just a different experience. That's been a few years. He's probably been retired 10 years. So it's been a little while. But that extended amount of time is can be challenging when they're gone, but also when you come back together, the extended amount of time and the quality amount of time that you can create when you're back together can make up for that time that's lost while they're gone. Which kind of leads me to the next question or topic that I feel is relevant in this discussion, and that is travel and solo adventures. Now, for me, travel is like my number one hot button. I absolutely love traveling. And so, if you love to travel, this gives you a great opportunity to travel solo, which I enjoy doing, or with other pilot wives, other friends, etc. I know I've taken several pilot wife trips, and it's just been amazing. It's fun. You share similar stories, similar interests, and that camaraderie that's kind of priceless. And I know for me, there's been so much opportunity with this solo flying, even day trips, to fly out and meet a friend in California for lunch, leave early in the morning, have my friend pick me up at the airport, go have lunch, and then hop on an airplane. They drop me back off and I come back home or shopping for a day. She's quite interested in being a part of if you're listening to this, I've got a cat that's like right in the midst of everything. She wants to be on the camera. And if you're watching this on the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you can see her here in the film. You can catch this over on the YouTube channel. She's quite interested in my microphone. Okay, Luna, enough of that. All right. Where was I? So, as I was saying, there's so much opportunity here to really get to take advantage of those things that you may want to do that perhaps the pilot doesn't want to do. I know for me, I have a whole list of bucket list type topics or destinations. I want to visit all the presidential libraries. Sometimes I can do that in an out and back day or just simply spend one night in the destination, fly in, settle in, get up the next morning, go to the library first thing, and be back at the airport in time to catch the last flight out and spend a whole day there. So there's a lot of different things like that. I am 4 states away currently as of this recording of hitting all 50 states. I want to do all the continents. My daughter studied abroad in England when she was in college, gave me the opportunity to hop on and do that. And because I had no small children at home, I was able to do that often while he was off on a trip, and then it didn't disrupt our time together. Now, the third thing I really want to cover is self-focused time, self-care, self-involvement, whatever. I call it self-focus. And that's when you can really focus in on doing those things that you truly love to do, you truly want to do. You can take a class. I love to cook, so I would spend a lot of that time taking cooking classes. Maybe you want to learn a foreign language, go back to college, or just explore some college classes, maybe that don't even have credit. There's so many different opportunities out there to expand yourself, expand your knowledge. And overcome what we could term as loneliness or feeling like you're left alone when you fill those gap times with things that fill you up. So there's classes, there's girls' night out. I used to run a book club and a bunco group. Maybe you want to get your yoga certification. Again, there's so many different options to fill your time and avoid that loneliness and really expand who you are to grow yourself, to grow your experiences. And you never know what might emerge from that. Maybe a new career. I know pilot wives that have decided to become travel agents or lead tours and trips all around the world because they've expanded themselves and they've grown into all different things through these opportunities. So open your mind up to those possibilities that are available to you. And then another question, well, what about coordinating schedules? What if I work a full-time job and I have weekends off and he's flying weekends? Yes, there are times during this type of career that can be tricky, but not necessarily impossible. So, like anything, the most important thing to do is communicate. If you have a set work schedule, then you are very clear on what those timeframes are going to be. So you communicate. Now, for me, of course, coming again from the commercial airline industry, we had a monthly bid. So it was very easy to sit down before my husband would bid and what are the kids' events coming up? Are there holidays? Are there special events? Is there a trip that we want to take? Are there things that we want to do? Or is it one of those months where it purely doesn't matter? Now, I've been a coach and owned my own business since 1994, so a lot of years. And so, especially as the kids grew up and moved out of the house, it made it very easy because he was often able to bid to fly weekends because it didn't matter to us anymore. We didn't need to have weekends off to be with the kids and do all of that. And it made it great because then we were able to travel weekdays, which are typically less busy, and do different events during the week. And it didn't really matter. I could fill in my time and work my schedule and do what I wanted, regardless of the day of the week. So that's where it's important that you sit down together before the bid, Decide each month on what your priorities are and then set the bid up around that. Now, I mentioned holidays. I have a whole holiday series here on the Pilot Wife podcast. So make sure that you are searching out how to navigate the holidays as a pilot wife, different things like that. You can search through whether you're on the podcast app, whether you're on peakperformancehabits.com, my primary website, whatever it is, you can search that out and find the series on how to deal with holidays, how to deal with loneliness, how to be the party starter, and all of that in your own niche and your own friends group. Now, another question that comes up is how do we split and share the domestic load, those domestic responsibilities, everything from household items to kids, all of that. Now, I'm getting ready to do a show just on this, but I haven't done it yet. But again, communication is the key part of setting this up to run very effectively, not perfectly, but very effectively for you most of the time. Now, here's the reality of it. It's likely never going to be an even split. And the reality of that too is in many, many houses, it doesn't matter what the career, the profession is, women tend to take on more of that responsibility. Not in every situation, but in many. Now, another reason why it's likely never going to be an even split is because they are truly physically gone out of the house. In my case, my husband mostly flew 3-day trips. And so he was just gone during that time. And you can't make that time up. So again, that's where looking at the schedule each month, deciding what the priority is, and then setting up that bid, and then also prioritizing for yourself as best you can. What do I have that I want to do this month? How can I communicate that to him to make sure he's aware? Hey, when you get home from this trip, there's a girls' trip that I'd like to go on, and I'm going to be gone these days. Can we work this out? Or are you open to working this out? Or again, not telling them what they have to do, but communicating in a way that makes them feel like they're part of that decision and empowers you to take care of yourself and do those things that you want to do too. And then when the bid does come out, then make sure you look at that, get everything set up that it's going to work out the way that it is. And just understand, like anything, life is full of compromise. The pilot wife life is full of compromise too. And this is one area that I see constantly being discussed in the pilot wife Facebook groups. Again, as a constant conversation. My husband doesn't pitch in and help at all when he gets home. He just feels like it's my job constantly, whatever. That's where being a good communicator and setting boundaries is so important. Do not allow yourself to be a doormat. Yes, he needs some of his own time when he gets home too, because the reality of it is their time is not completely their own when they're on the road. It's easy to look at that. I know I was guilty of this for a long time, to look at it and think, oh my gosh, you just have it made. I used to laugh because he said once, I think you think all I do is sit around in a hotel room and order room service. Reality of it is they have delayed flights and airplane swaps and broken airplanes and a lot of different things that go on. So they have to have that time for themselves too, for working out, for their own self-care. So it's just the reality of this type of life where you have to understand that going in, understand that committing to a pilot wife lifestyle, and then again, constantly having that flow of communication, knowing that there's going to be communication breakdowns. There's going to be those times when they get home a day later than expected because of mechanicals and delays and rescheduling and all that type of stuff. But it's important that you don't play doormat, that you communicate those things because you and your kids deserve better than that. It can be easy for a pilot to play what I call pilot in command, even when they're at home. And I don't think that they always mean to. And I don't think that they're all just narcissists. I hear that term bantered around a lot. I'm not saying that they're not out there, but I think it's easy to think when they're not thinking of us as strongly as we believe that they could, that they're a narcissist. They spend a lot of their time compartmentalizing and living somewhat of a solo life. And so I know just from my own experience, it can be hard then integrating back in, which leads me to my next topic, which is integrating back into the home and the family life without upsetting things. And again, I know I keep saying this, it sounds redundant, but communication is so important. as you build a family, if you choose to do that, and as the kids grow and get older and in school and activities, kids thrive on routines and schedules. They really, truly do. And it's great to teach them the flexibility that can go along with and has to go along with an airline, um, uh, airplane pilot type lifestyle. Uh, but it's also important to communicate that it's important that so many of these routines and boundaries and ways of doing things, the structured environment is kept, especially with different personalities of our children, some, special needs children, special learning situations with kids. I just know that life very often flows much more smoothly when 80% of the time you can stick to a fairly consistent routine. Now, it may be different in your life, in your home, and that is great. But overall, when I chat with other wives and other aviation professionals, this is what I've learned. Now, another hot topic: trust, jealousy, and commitment. Now, again, I have several episodes on this. Are pilots prone to cheat? There's a tendency to think that, and in my opinion, not necessarily. It depends on the person, not the profession. So, that question: do they cheat? Will they cheat? Again, that's where good communication and those boundaries. A lot of things changed when cell phones and social media and the internet came along. Texting, keeping things secrets, Facebook Messenger and Snapchat and other ways of communicating. Um, Anytime that something is secret, it seems to lead to a feeling of distrust, dishonesty, suspicion. Like, why? If nothing's going on, there's no need to keep it secret. So that's where you have to have those good communications. Something that can seem very innocent, and it could seem like maybe they thought, oh, I'm not going to bring this up because it's just going to upset the apple cart. And then you find out about it because another pilot wife mentions it. You're at a party with a group of airline people and it comes up, something along those lines. So it's so important to communicate. Look, I just want to know. It's fine if you go out to dinner or not, whatever your boundaries are, but just don't keep it a secret from me. Because again, something that can seem innocent when found out can create distrust, suspicion, and that unsettled feeling. And very often, it takes a long time to build trust and a split second to break that trust. So you want to be very clear about those boundaries and do that as early on in the relationship as you possibly can, ideally before marriage, but certainly as soon as you hear this episode, if you haven't actually sat down together and discussed this. Now, another important thing is, how do you keep the spark going? In my mind, really and truly, absence can make the heart grow fonder. You've got that time alone to yourself to fill up your own fuel tank, if you will, your love tank, whatever you want to call it. And they have some time away. So when you come back together, it can be amazing. Now, I'm just going to speak to you from the way that I've done things. I might be a generation older than you, and that's okay. Maybe we did things a little differently, but ultimately, my number one goal is to always show up as my best self. So I have to define that for myself. Who am I and who is my best self? And only you are going to know what that means based on yourself and your relationship. And so this is my philosophy, and it's by no means perfect. I'm not suggesting it's right for you. It's my podcast, and that's what I do, is just share my own experiences. And again, this is not every time. One of the things that was important to me was I always wanted to give him, or I always want to, I shouldn't say in past tense, I always want to give him a reason to want to come home to me, to continue to be married to me, to continue to live together in our home, to have our children, to have all the memories and create more memories. So that was a number one goal for me. And so it was important to me, for the most part, again, not perfect, but I always liked to be fairly well put together when he got home. Didn't mean that I had to be in fancy clothes. I could still be in my workout clothes, but I like to be showered and maybe have a little bit of makeup on, because I wear makeup. If you don't, that's fine. Or have my hair done, especially when the kids were little. That didn't always happen, but it was just always a goal for mine to have him walk in the house and be glad to see a smiling face, the person that he fell in love with and married. It was also important. I always really tried I say did because the kids are grown and gone now, but to have a clean house, to not have clutter, to have things picked up. I didn't want him tripping over kids' toys. That was great for me too, because it created a routine with my children to say, we always had kind of a rule that at night everything got put back up. Even if it just all got thrown in a toy box, it just had to be off the floor. I didn't want to be walking through, stepping on things, cutting my feet. You know that if you have kids and you've ever experienced that with Legos and all the other different things that are out there. So I always wanted him to walk into a calm, clean, put together environment. I always tried to have candles or, smell good scents or something like that. I always like to have something to eat, depending, if you got home super late at night or early in the morning or whatever, not so much. But I always like to have a stocked refrigerator. And again, these are things that I did for myself, for my kids, and certainly wanted to do for him as well. So don't think of this necessarily as, oh my gosh, he's ruling the roost and she's, asking how high should she jump all the time. I did this for me, and that was one of my expectations, and I just wanted to create that environment for him. It's something that I wanted to give from my giving nature, things I wanted to do. And the interesting thing is when you do those kind of things, you will often find that they get reciprocated. They definitely can get reciprocated. So it really does become a lot of the little things. If you've ever read the book by, I think it's Gary Chapman, I believe his name is, The Love Languages, the 5 love languages, that can be important too. Now, my love languages change, and I don't know that I 100% adhere to that philosophy. There are pieces, it's like anything. Take the philosophy, take the pieces of it that work for you and leave the rest behind. And so mine change. And so those 5 love languages are acts of service, touch and affection, quality time, words of affirmation, and gifts. And I can tell you without a doubt, number 5 on my list always is gifts. That's not the most important to me. But it's interesting how the other 4 at different times in life, depending on what's been going on, have ranked up there at number 1. So determine what you believe your love language is, determine what you think makes him come alive and thrive. And those are some of the things that you can do to keep that spark going, to keep things fresh. All right, so what am I missing? Again, let me know. Go to ask.pilotwifepodcast.com. If you have a suggestion for the show, it's there. And then don't miss the holiday series, along with other shows that I've done on questions and answers. I do my mailbag episodes where your questions, I answer them. That's where you can go to ask.pilotwifepodcast.com, ask me your question, and then I'll be doing it on an upcoming show. Do you ever find yourself on the struggle bus with relationships, career, or life in general? I'm a mindset and peak performance coach, helping women rediscover their own sense of identity and purpose, avoid turbulence, and put their own oxygen mask on first. Together, we work to get you out of autopilot and create a better flight plan for life and relationship success. As a pilot wife for over 30 years, I've navigated thousands of miles and moments in aviation, mommyhood, business, and life in general. I would love to offer you a free call to see if I might be able to help you too. You can go to coach.pilotwifepodcast.com. And if you have a topic suggestion or a story to share on the show, go to ask.pilotwifepodcast.com. And of course, you'll find all of this at resources.pilotwifepodcast.com. Please take a moment to review and rate the show on whatever your favorite podcast app is. This helps the show get found by others who need what we have here. I'll see you on the journey, and thanks for listening.